Okay. Official howdy do and welcome to, I believe this is class number 5, Mindfulness and Emotional Intelligence. I'm glad that y'all have made it for this one here. Um, so, huh, it's been quite the journey thus far. We've been going over lots of different things. So why don't we just jump into the blackboard here while I do a little screen share and we can start getting into some of the content. Alrighty then. Okay, here we are. Howdy do. I'm going to put this chat to the side. I don't know if the chat comes up in the camera work, but welcome. So, mindfulness and emotional intelligence, number 5. So, I'd like to just kind of start off the conversation by framing a particular problem. We've been looking at emotions and we've been looking at the experience of emotions, how to process the emotions, how to feel through the emotions as well, all of these different things. Sorry, I just want to check something really quickly here. Okay, good. Never mind. We're back on forth. Earlier today, I was having some problems with recording, so I just wanted to double check to make sure that the recording was happening. Okay. So we've been working with the whole concept of discerning, identifying emotions in the body, working with the emotions in the body and such. So I'd like to kind of back up and look at this, a potential way of framing this conversation. So from a Buddhist lens, being that this is mindfulness and emotional intelligence, this is a problem. This is the way that the Buddhists might pose the problem. We all have a tendency for this mind-body process, me, you, everybody, but when we look at reducing it down to our basic elements, it's the mind and the body. The mind and the body process, as they work together, they tend to fixate on discontent. Dukkha would be the Pali term there. Sometimes I like to phrase that as the gap between how I want things to be versus how they are. That kind of gap of dukkha, that discontent that arises. We have a tendency to fixate on discontent. No matter how much we want to be positive or open flowing in life, there's a tendency for when discontent arises, it becomes a problem. We tend to kind of fixate on that, whether that's a sense of worry, whether that's a sense of potential defense mechanisms becoming triggered, or how we hold stress in the body, or we might tighten up, turn away from our emotive experience, get lost into the mental architecture of the mind. The mind-body process fixates on dukkha. And as well, we tend to congeal around it without knowing it's occurring. And we tend to take that as the locus of self-identity. I like to use that as the definition for the Pali term avijja. Avijja is described or translated as ignorance. I'm not knowing something. So we could say, yeah, ignorance is bliss, but the ignorance in this context is there can be some sort of dukkha that arises, some discontent arises, and without really knowing it, it's like I forget whatever it was that I was connected with before, be it pleasant, be it open, be it skillful, wholesome. And I tend to have this gravitational pull towards this discontent. And then my mind wraps around it. I start thinking about it. I start kind of defending about it. Then my body wraps around it. I'm feeling it in the body. And then I take it as the locus of my identity. The locus meaning the seat, the ground, the foundation. I build a whole ego state off of that. I'm perfectly fine and good. Everything's great and looking very positive, and then I'm going through my to-do list and it's like, oh, there's a very important paper. Where did I put that? Oh, I completely forgot that. Geez, it's been over years. Where did I do that? How could I lose that? What's wrong with me that I lost that? Oh, then boom, the stress, the anxiety, the self-judgment, my whole sense of past, present, and future now has this cloud over it. So what we've been working for thus far, or working with thus far in practice, is noticing the rise and fall of emotions, working with the noting feeling states practice. So we're coming into the body, discerning, recognizing the different emotive sensations. We contact them, label them: anger, fear, sadness, joy, love, humor, etc. Contact, label, explore. Where does it arise? How does it arise? What are the qualities that it has? Bring a sense of acceptance to it. Acceptance, kindness, equanimity, and then release. We let go of it. We don't fixate, so to speak. So we're trying to work this way, training ourselves to have a different response to emotions as they arise, rather than tighten up and turn away, open up and turn towards in a way that clarifies our experience. So again, reminding of this map we were working with, we're trying to move out of the conceptual level. We're disengaging from the story, just coming into that experience. Oh, okay, here's the fear, here's the anxiety I'm feeling in the body. Right? That's the feeling of it. Okay, and the mind is generating stories. That's the image that I see. That's the internal talk that I hear. But I'm not going to engage in that. I'm going to come back into the body. I'm going to work with the emotive content there, or the emotive activity. So that's maintaining this contact with the sensory level of experience here. The more that we can get into the sensory experience, then that's when we're able to, well, allow for this rise and fall, coming into being and passing away from being of our sensory experience. Then eventually what happens is we begin to notice the potential for flow. Yeah. So maybe some like long-held gripping of the anger, fear, sadness, hopelessness, disgust, embarrassment, shame, what have you, begins to release, open, breathe a little bit. Yeah. There might begin to be some sort of processing or moving. Again, I go back to the analogy of the smile. The smile is something that comes into being, it spreads across the face, it flourishes. We don't try to suppress it. We don't become like, oh my gosh, this is horrible, I'm smiling, people see this is terrible. And then it passes away, and we don't then fall into this depressive state that I will be bereft of joy for the rest of my life. The joy is something that comes into being, flourishes, passes away from being. Training ourselves so that we can allow the rise and fall of these other emotive states. Yeah? And potentially within that, we begin to release or be released from that fixation so that we can then have greater access to the ability to just rest in awareness. Have our awareness become a little bit more open, pliant, become more of an open system, so to speak. Yeah. So again, just a little bit of a review of stuff that we've done kind of through the lens of kind of the Buddhist posing of the problem. We tend to fixate on dukkha, and then that becomes an I am. So this is something we were working with last week, where we're like, okay, that's great, rise and fall of emotions, but sometimes they stick. So we're looking at sometimes, and such in that example I just gave, okay, I'm missing a particular paper. It's a really important document. Oh my gosh, there's gonna be a punishment, something bad's gonna happen. There's the emotion that comes up, but then there sometimes can come along a belief, a negative belief about something. I'm screwed up. There's something wrong with me. I'm always messing up here. I can't succeed. I'm not good enough. So on down the line. I'm not lovable. It's my fault. Sometimes these very negative belief systems can come in. And then we can get really entrenched in a deeper I am experience. So this is what we're doing last week. We're deconstructing a negative ego states. So it's a bit of a trigger practice, yeah. So in C space, the mind's eye, we bring up the circumstance, a memory, the idea of unpleasant experience. In hearing space, in between the ears, where we hear the internal dialogue, we might become aware of this negative belief. The negative self-talk might hold that belief. Oh, there's something wrong with you. You're a screw up. What did you do? And then there's the particular emotions and feel space. So we're broadening the practice from beyond just the sensory contact with the emotions, but then broadening it up into, okay, how's the avijja happening within the mental sphere as well, causing a belief? So That was a trigger practice because we were kind of contacting an unpleasant experience. Yeah. But I'd like to just talk a little bit about that particular way of working, where we're contacting the seeing of the mind's eye, the hearing of the mind, and the feeling in the body. So for people that worked with me for a while, this is the see, hear, feel practice. This is a particular way that we were working with it, of specifically deconstructing the negative ego state. But for those that are new, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. So for people that sat with me this morning, apologies, this is a little bit of a review again. But so focus in. You know, what we're doing here is, well, this is vipassana, or an insight practice. Yeah, because we're looking at these building blocks of the subjective experience of self. So we're taking some moments to contact see space, where the mental images that arise. Most people report somewhere around their forehead, their eyes. That's where they see their thoughts. Taking some time to contact hearing space, or that place in between the ears where we hear our internal talk, where we hear the voices in the head. Not talking about a psychotic breakdown, but we hear our thinking, the auditory component of thinking, the dialogues, the narration, the conversations, the inner commentary. A lot of times, the voice of the judge, the critic. That's where it all lives there. And then, of course, working with feel and the emotional sensations of the body. So we're working with being able to contact this see, hear, feel. And what that does is that allows us to explore this subjective experience. So what we're doing here is, it's a vipassana practice. Working with the noting feeling states and then adding on the image and the internal talk, the see, hear, feel practice. So vipassana, it has those features of vipassana because we're discerning the rise and fall of sensory experience, although it's within the given theme that we're doing. And looking at, in Buddhism, what is referred to as the three characteristics. So this is at the core of insight practice. So we're looking for these particular features. There's dukkha, anicca, anatta. So for many insight practitioners, this is review, but it's always good to reflect upon how your wisdom has deepened since the previous time you've been exposed to this lesson. So the dukkha, again, can we clearly recognize the fixation on dukkha, how it's arising? Does it arise as a sense of cravings, a sense of aversion, something that's pushing us towards becoming unconscious of our experience? Can we discern what sense modality it's rising in? How does it arise in the body? How does it arise in the mind? How is it that we're able to pinpoint the experience of dukkha within the see, hear, feel experience? And in so doing, can we then contact the anicca, or the impermanence of it? Oops. Here we are showing my spelling challenges. Okay, can we observe the impermanence? That is to say, any rate of change of the sensate quality, especially within the rise and fall, or the onset or the fading away. Here comes the sensation, I'm allowing. Here goes the sensation, I'm allowing. I'm not getting away, just allowing it to move. So rather than fixating on something, it's the opposite of fixating. We're allowing it to return back to this sense of impermanence. And in so doing, we can gain insight into anatta, or put otherwise, we can observe a disidentification. We're breaking that sense of self, that identifying with the emotion. Then we're breaking that identification from the belief, or from generally whatever the content of the sensory experience is. So there's the three characteristics. We're breaking, we're sussing out the dukkha, we are observing the impermanence, and then we're kind of breaking that sense of it becoming the locus of our identity. So that was part of the idea behind the deconstructing of the negative ego states last week. But again, going back to Janae's principle of working, there's the stage one, working with the safety building. We're doing a lot of that with the shamatha work, the breath work, the calm abiding, finding a safe base to rest on. And then the secondary level is working the exploration and the processing. So that's a lot of the noting feeling states and what we're doing last week with the deconstructing of the negative ego states. Then there's this third piece that I'd like to start to ease on into, transition into. So we're building, how is it that we can build some of the more positive, altruistic, aspirational aspects of self? So that's what I'd like to work on this week. Cultivating positive ego states. In a way, it's kind of a metta vipassana. It's a metta in a way, for people that are not familiar with that term, it's a heart practice in this way, in that it's a conscious cultivation of an altruistic, skillful state. To see if it can be kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, or equanimity, or we can define it rather broadly into like any positive resourcing state. It also has a vipassana quality in that we're still working with the subcomponents of self. So this is what we're going to do. Last week, we were doing a deconstructing of the negative ego state. This week, we're going to be doing a cultivation of the positive ego state by, we're just switching out the content of see, hear, and feel. Last week, we were intentionally filling it with negative see bad, hear bad, feel bad, so to speak. This week, we're going to just be replacing the content with a see good, hear good, feel good. So this technique comes from Shinzen Young, and I thought it'd be interesting to get a little word about his description of it. Although he's a contemporary, rather renowned Vipassana teacher, the roots of this practice actually come from Deity Yoga, Vajrayana, or Tibetan practices of Deity Yoga. So let's see if I can do another bringing up of this, since we're able to do this multimedia thing here. Let's listen to the man himself share.
By the time Mahayana evolved into Vajrayana, the religious stuff was really intense. So now the Buddha is a deity. And to become a Buddha means to become a deity. So how is that feasible? Well, what they did is they did something very, very clever. They showed people how they could become a deity, a god. It's called Deity Yoga. Yoga in the sense of merging, by the way. Play Nenjor in the Tibetan language. Now, you've probably heard that Tibetan Buddhism is secret Buddhism. There are these secret initiations. So now I'm going to give away the secret to all of you. Yes, that's right. Here's the secret of secret Buddhism. How do you become a deity? In a way that is not insanity or possession, by the way. How do you become a deity in a way that brings about the same insight and liberation as the deconstructive process of early Buddhism? Very clever. Here's how you do it. You replace your internal talk with the mantra of the deity. You replace your self-image with the image of the deity. And you replace your normal human feelings with the feel of the deity, and you form the touch of the deity by making hand gestures, mudras. So touch, feel, image, talk. Of a myth, you become the myth. As I say, not to be insane and not to be possessed, but to gain insight into what? Insight into the arbitrary nature of self-identification, because you created this alternate identity from scratch. and you know it's a myth. Yet you become it. Very clever. It was a way of meeting the people where they were at. They were worshiping these archetypes. Buddhism had really moved from its early sort of Buddha as a spiritual scientist, just another guy, but an extraordinary guy, to, okay, Buddha is an archetype, so now become the archetype and you'll get the same insight into how the sense of self arises. So once again, we're working with feel, image, talk, aren't we? Broadly, it's another way to do focus on positive, as I define focus on positive. So in Tibetan Buddhism, in the core of these, if you look at the surface, it looks like they're doing these rituals, but inside they're doing deity yoga, where they're becoming this deity, then becoming this other deity, then becoming this other deity, in order to see that when you work with those elements, those are the elements that create the illusion of self. If it can create the illusion of a mythical self, then it certainly can create the illusion of your ordinary self, and you gain the same insights. So one of the reasons that I define focus on positive so broadly is to allow some students who wish to do deity yoga. Some of my students that relate to that, I would never encourage a person to do this, but some of them want to do it. And it can be very insightful. Well, the focus on positive technique that I give you is so broadly defined that it includes within it not only early Buddhist loving kindness, but deity yoga, because you're working with those elements in a very systematic way. A lot of times Westerners, if they want to do this, will not choose the deities of India and Tibet. They'll choose Western archetypes. That's certainly my case. When I do this, I typically use La Virgen de Guadalupe, the Virgin of Guadalupe, because I grew up seeing that in LA. And that's like, it's very natural for me. So, and I use Ave Maria. So, yeah, so you got the little Jewish boy from LA does the Catholic tantric practice. Well, that's the world we live in. But it works. You can do it with any archetype. And in fact, traditional way that you're supposed to be taught to do the rosary is you visualize the mystery, you have the certain prayer and talk space, and you're supposed to experience the emotions, and you're touch-wise engaged with the rosary. It's the same elements, okay? It's right there.
Okay. Good. So that's what we're going to be doing a little bit tonight. Let's turn on the light there a little bit. We're going to be doing a little, this comes from kind of the Vajrayana Deity Yoga practice, but rather than trying to embody a deity, so to speak, what we're trying to do is, well, build a resource within ourselves. Ask yourself, last week we were looking at, where we trip up or where we tend to fall in terms of negative ego states. This week, ask yourself, what would you like a little bit more of within your baseline experience of life? Would you like to have a little bit more access to, or a little bit more at baseline experience of love, of confidence, of peace, safety? What is it that you feel that you would like to have a little bit more of? So just reflect on that. Whatever, don't overthink it. First thing that comes to mind, really. And just go with that. And secondly, just ask yourself, was there ever a time that you felt that? Was there ever a time where that was your experience? It can be very brief, it can be very fleeting, but it's just a memory. Thinking of an example, one time I was doing this practice where I was feeling a little challenged. Had an opportunity that I was stepping into. I felt like it was a little bit too big of an opportunity. I didn't feel properly prepared, so I was feeling some doubt come on. So I was doing this practice where I was trying to think of a time where it's like I felt like really like confident and that I really had this. So the memory that came to mind, um, gosh, I don't know, fourth or fifth grade I was in, and I won a particular art contest. There was, I just remember the scene. So in the C space, the memory is, it's some courthouse. I think it was a county-wide art contest. So it was just, some courthouse in Union County, New Jersey. And it was just filled with all, all these kids and families. But I don't know, for some reason there was all, I don't know, it was in my in my mind, in my memory, it was a big deal because I was, fourth, fifth grade. It seemed like, there were people there with cameras. There was also people from the courthouse there dressed very, very properly, all flags and everything. And it was in this courtroom type thing. I don't know why they chose that. But they were announcing off the winners of the different, oh yeah, in honorable mention, in third place and all the way down. And I thought that I was going to get some recognition. And then, I never heard my name called. So I was kind of feeling a little down. But then they announced, and the grand winner of the entire whatever county, and then they called my name. And I remember just, I had to swing the gates open and walk down the middle of the courthouse. And it was just like cameras going and everything as I'm approaching to get like a trophy and a check. And at that young age, it was the first time I think that my mind just like conjured up this like walking bass line of like boom, brown, brown, brown. And I just had this sense of like, yeah, I got this. Yeah. So, that right there, it's so easy for people to say, oh yeah, I would like quality A. Is there a time where you felt that? Yeah, but it's kind of a silly memory. Don't judge it, So if it happened to you, you have the wisdom of experience that it was something that actually your nervous system did feel. So in the practice, see, hear, feel practice. It's a see, hear, feel good practice. So in C space, I'm taking that memory and I'm inserting it in there. And I'm trying to just hone myself to just stay in that moment. So you're the editor, director, camera person. You can just zoom in, pan out, just kind of just go around all of the details that you see within that memory and keep replaying it over. So that's in the C space. That's the particular C good. Now that in feel space, what's the emotion that comes up? As you are feeling, as you are seeing this memory, what arises in feel space? So as I'm playing this memory out, there's a sense of joy, there's a sense of humor, there's a sense of like ownership and confidence, there's a sense of this energy, there's this kind of, I don't know, large, grandiose type of feeling that feels very, very positive. So discern what are, noting feeling states, what are the emotions that you can identify? Can you permit and allow them? So the see good has the memory, the feel good has the emotions. Being aware of that, allowing, cultivating, meeting them with a sense of acceptance, a sense of appreciation, which creates another arising of a pleasant moment. So as I'm hanging out with this particular see good, this particular feel good, is there a word or a phrase or a statement about yourself that comes up that kind of matches this experience? What would that be? Yeah, I guess the phrase, I said it before, I got this. Yeah. So boom, just put that into here space, and that's your mantra. Just say that over and over and over. Yeah. So it's a see good, hear good, feel good. We're cultivating a particular state. So as I'm free floating within this, I'm trying to bring up the image in see space. That's the see good. And being aware of the particular flavors of emotion, feel space. That's feel good. And I'm just putting that phrase on repeat. That's hear good. So allow your awareness to then free float. What's your primary experience at any given moment? See good, hear good, feel good, any combination, or all good. Yeah. So I'm free floating within this space, and the exercise goes something like this, or would sound something like this. See good, feel good, feel and hear good, all good, see good, feel good, and so on like that. So we're working to, well, cultivate a particular positive state. So we're using that kind of see, hear, feel architecture, but we're consciously creating content at this point. So this is a moment where, yeah, we're working on that conceptual level because we're bringing in these ideas, but then really trying to get into the sensory experience of it and allowing a particular momentum to take off. So before we go into the sitting practice, does anybody have any questions about that? Questions about the practice? I'm going to guide us through it. So I'll give you the step by step. Does anybody have any questions about the practice or any of the content that I've mentioned thus far? Just feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Is the sit going to be on one specific incident or more general?
Well, it's up to you. Up to you to choose the memory. Well, it's up to you to choose. Again, you can go through that that process of choosing. Here, let's go back to the screen share there. Yeah, is that the right one? Here we go. Okay. So it's up to you to think of a quality that you would like to have more of in your life. You know, joy, confidence, safety, peace, what have you. And then think of a memory that was your experience. So yeah, that's going to be the full theme of the meditation tonight. So just ask yourself, what's a quality that you would like to experience a little bit more of? You know? So the idea is, well, sometimes I use this actually quite frequently as resource building and trauma work. So when I work with people who have experienced trauma, part of it is there might be, well, limited positive affect. Yeah? So it's how is it that we can train to allow yourself, give yourself permission, allow the nervous system to be able to feel a little bit more positive. When we have trauma, specifically, that negative sense of self is probably very, very dominant, at the expense of, access to our inner resources. So how's it that we can build up some of these inner resources as we are processing and diminishing the effects of the negative, of the trauma? So I put this under the category of resource building. So again, think of a quality that you like to have more of. Maybe for one reason or another, you don't allow yourself to, whether it's a belief system, the nervous system just hasn't built up those networks to hold it. So just think of a quality, joy, confidence, safety, peace, love, acceptance, compassion, equanimity, contentment, what have you. And then what's a memory? Any old memory, it's good enough. We'll just use that as the content of the framework. And we'll have the see good, the visual, the positive memory, the hear good, the word or phrase that fits the experience, the feel good, the emotional body sensation. And I'll lead us through building that up. Does that answer the question a little bit there for you, eh? Yeah. All right. Any other questions, comments before we jump in? Alrighty. So take a moment to allow yourself to come to an upright seated position. Allow yourself to straighten up and settle in. We're going to be doing a little bit of cultivating positive, see, hear, feel good practice today. Let's start off with a few minutes of cultivating shamatha, cultivating a bit of settled mind concentration as we begin to find our way towards the breath. Allowing yourself to really get into the sensory experience of the breath, anchoring your attention on one part of the body, actively engaged in breathing, and a peripheral awareness loosely held around the rest of the body. Observing not merely the mechanical entering and exiting of air, but what are the pleasant qualities associated with the in-breath, the top of the in-breath, the out-breath, and the base of the out-breath. Whatever degree you can discern the pleasant qualities, can you feel them arise within the body? Can you give yourself permission to feel them? The qualities of water soaking into sand, whatever gladdening or balancing qualities arise from the breath, can you allow that to penetrate into you? Allow yourself to feel that through. Okay, good. So know that breath is always available. At any time, if you wish, you could even take a break from the other exercises and come back to simple contact with breath. But for now, I invite you to move on to this secondary activity, cultivating see, hear, feel good. So again, reflecting upon a particular quality or qualities that you would like to be able to cultivate. Can you just allow your mind to just float back to a particular pleasant memory? A time where you may have felt or experienced this quality or feeling. And we can start to build from here. Can you bring up that memory and see space? And then for some people, this might be challenging. If no images arise for you, generally, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just probably more wired for internal talk over imaging. So some people, they don't think in images, and that's perfectly fine. But, if it's just blank and see space, that's perfectly cool. Just try to be aware. Try to be aware of the memory. But for everybody else who has uh, a capacity to think in images, bring that image to mind. Again, you are the camera person, the director, editor. Rebuild the space, rebuild the environment. Where are you? What's happening? The time of day. Look around. What's the environment that you're in? Who's there? Or are you by yourself? And then press play. Allow the story to play out. And try to retain it just to the pleasant. If some unpleasant thoughts begin to sneak in, just try to the best of your ability to delegate them to the back seat. Focus primarily on the pleasant aspects of the memory. So this positive memory, this is the see good. Now then expanding your focus to include this body where you feel the emotional sensations. Give yourself permission to really now focus on the feeling. What are the emotions that arise that you feel now as you are watching this memory play out? So this is an exercise of permitting, allowing, disinhibiting any of the pleasant qualities, the pleasant feeling states, pleasant emotions in the body. Allow them to arise. So what's coming up in see space is a bit of the fuel for what's arising in feel space. If you want to, you could do a quick inventory, even just a noting feeling states, focusing on the positive. Can you name, label, contact label what the pleasant emotions are? Now then, as you are contacting the see good and the feel good, is there a word or a phrase, a statement that kind of encapsulates, embodies, symbolizes this experience? Don't overthink it. Just whatever naturally bubbles up is good enough. Take that word and phrase and place that in here space. And put that as your mantra. Put that on repeat. Allow yourself to really get into the rhythm of that mantra, of that particular hear good. Okay, good. And then as you are kind of holding this, just allow yourself to free float between the see good, the hear good, and the feel good. Whether it's the image, the internal talk, the emotions in the body, just allow yourself, give yourself permission to really take that in. And if you wish, you can use the labeling process. When you're primarily aware of the see good, label see good. When you're primarily aware of hear good, label hear good. When you're primarily aware of feel good, label feel good. In any combination. So again, might sound something like this. Feel good. See good. Hear good. Feel good. All good. Okay. And so on like that. If you lose it, it all comes apart. That's okay. Just start again. Just reintroduce the image and see good. Reconnect with the feel good. Re-implement the hear good. And start again. This is about trying to hold. Allow your nervous system to hold this, cultivate this. So the more that we can be aware of the activity, meet it with this acceptance, appreciative joy, this permission, this allowing, the more that it can sustain. And it's only natural if something knocks it off track. We just start again to rebuild. Sometimes inviting back in the breath and how the breath may elicit, produce some pleasant qualities as well, may be an aid, a resource in helping to sustain the uptick in the general hedonic tone as we are practicing cultivating. The see, hear, feel good. To whatever degree the feel good would like to expand, increase, allow it. Whatever arises, we meet it with that openness, that acceptance, that equanimity, the appreciation of the pleasant. Okay, good. So we've been efforting, doing a procedural task here. Now let that be in the background. It's just moving into a do nothing approach. Just allow yourself to contact awareness itself. Just rest in awareness in whatever way that presents itself and however that means something to you. No efforting, just abiding in awareness. Okay, at ease, everybody. Ghost about practice, allowing yourself to continue to receive the merits of your actions. So we worked with cultivating positive there. Let's see here, feel good practice. So now I'd like to hear from you. What did you notice? What did you observe? What was your experience? Or any questions on anything that we've covered in the practice thus far? Just feel free to unmute yourself and manifest.
Hi, Michael. This is Barad.
Hey, Baran.
I am sure I'm not the only one who felt this, which was very difficult to keep the image, or at least bring the experience in. And finally, when I was able to choose one, it just kept flying away. And I think one of the reasons is, your memory was a good one on its own without anything attached to it. You had a good feeling and you went on with your life. I think some of these other experiences that certainly I brought to mind, whether it was a past relationship or a work success or something, eventually may have been accompanied with something negative as well. A relationship that eventually ended, of course. So,
Mm-hmm.
so the negative kept coming up
Mm-hmm.
and did away with the positive and the effect that it was having. And it just kept going away until I couldn't hold it anymore, no matter what I did.
Good.
So how do you keep that positive from flying away?
That's an excellent question there, Baran. Thank you. Like you said, I'm sure your experience was probably common to a lot of people. I did say at the beginning, and I know this is not easy. Try to have a memory where it's rather cleanly positive. And part of that might be bookending it, like maybe in my memory that was a positive moment, but as soon as I collected my award, I go outside of the courtroom and my whole family gets mugged. I mean, I don't know, but I'm saying that like eventually some sort of loss, sadness, some sort of human tragedy befalls all of us. I mean, anything pleasant eventually goes away, and then we can become aware of the experience of loss or the experience of whatever challenge arises. So part of the experience, part of the practice is definitely having a bookend on the memory. So it's just like it starts here and it goes here. Maybe it's like a GIF, it just kind of keeps replaying this kind of one thing and doesn't go beyond. So sometimes with relationships, it's difficult because relationships are complex. The object of our love in one day becomes the object of our frustration and disappointment the next. And again, I kind of just sprang this exercise on you. So if it didn't go great tonight, perfectly fine. I always fall back onto we're looking for a solid D- in practice, So just trying it on. And the fact that you tried it on and you said, oh, okay, there's a couple bugs in it. I do encourage you, Barad, and everybody else, over the course of the week to roll this into what I'm assuming is your daily meditation practice that you all have. Roll this in. And maybe it might take a little bit of homework on your part to really look and try to find a good memory that's wholesome, skillful, that isn't also attached to negative experiences too. Maybe we have to kind of do a little searching, hunting, and finding for that in order to find kind of a memory that's in a pure state, so to speak. And for a lot of us, maybe we don't have that at all. Maybe everything within our experience is negative. In which case, it's possible to take somebody else's experience. That is to say, have you ever read a book or watched a movie or what have you, that there was a positive experience there that was like, wow, and you felt that there's something within the cathartic experience of losing yourself into the character or the story that you're able to access or feel something. Yeah, it's part of the reason why I don't know, a lot of us love hero movies, because there's that sense of like strength and ability to overcome challenge. While a lot of us like comedies because we just become full of lightness and laughter. You know, rom-coms because of the love and the connectivity. You know, all of these different types of genres that are very popular because they allow us to access things to a degree that maybe we might not normally. So it's even possible to take like a fictional experience and just replay that over and over again. And that also can work too. So part of it is finding, number one, a pure experience that you can bring in and take that as fuel. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two, Beran, is, as you mentioned, it can be fleeting too. So maybe part of the fleeting is that negative comes in and pulls it away. And maybe part of the fleeting nature of it is that well, we just, it's an opportunity to train. Yeah. So it's just like how many times in life have you been asked to, for a good 30 minutes, sit and hold a particular flavor of a narrow theme of images? Not often, I would imagine, unless you're, you know, routinely asked to come into courtrooms to do sketches of, you know, seeing potential perpetrators of crimes, where you're trying to remember and hold images in the mind. Um, you know, so it's a part of it is just training, getting used to it. So this is part of the training of the practice as well. And I did say a couple of times, it's natural for it to be knocked off course. You know, other things come in and just knock it away, and that's okay. Again, this is a training, so we just start again. That's all right. That's okay. That's part of the building of the positive affect tolerance. Something in the nervous system says nope and knocks it out. We just build it up, and then it gets knocked out. We just build it up, and then eventually, whatever wants to knock it down diminishes a bit. You know, we could also look at this, the negative that comes in that might be associated with the memory, but we could also look at it as other habit patterns that we have latent within us that kind of sabotage some of our positive experiences. So part of it is building a resilience to be stubborn about it. Be like, nope, fell down. I'm just going to build that card house up. Got knocked over. I'm going to build that back up until whatever force wants to knock it down isn't as strong anymore. And there becomes more of a resiliency. So it's a practice. It's definitely a practice. So even though it was a bit of a challenge, Barad, and to others who might have experienced that challenge, still sounds like you're doing it damn perfectly well. So I give you more than a D- tonight.
Thank you, Michael. That's great advice. Yeah, I think I deserve a D+.
D+. All right, there you go. Reach for the stars, Barad. You got this.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? What comes up for you? Would you notice, observe, or any questions that you have? How did this practice, or how did this material land with you even?
Okay, this is Carolyn. Oops.
Hey, Carolyn.
Okay. It's okay, Nicole. I went last week, so go ahead. If there's time, I'll talk. You talk first, please.
If you insist. Thank you so much. No, I was just gonna make a comment about how, you know, it has that wonderful meta flavor to it. And it was really surprisingly easy for me to access. I did feel the negative, you know, gunk coming at me, as Varad mentioned. But there was a force field, and I didn't, you know, I'd kind of fall out of it, but I could, you know, get right back into it. So that was really nice. I did notice that, interestingly enough, that the sort of good memory that I had melded into other good memories. So I'm not sure if that's encouraged, because I feel like there's a certain amount of samadhi that you could cultivate by just staying in one place, in one memory. But it definitely had a ripple effect for me, kind of, I mean, not wildly out of context. It was really related to that, to the theme, so to speak, of what I was, what my intention, was to cultivate.
Particular emotive or positive self-belief, it started to connect with other memories that had that same feel to it.
Yeah, exactly. So
Cool.
that was really nice. Is it okay to go outside of the main memory into other little webs, offshoots?
Yeah, I'd say for the purpose and intention of the class now, yeah, because in a way, it's like that's the memory chain. It's like we have certain, just in the way that negative memory works. Like I go out, I'd like to say, like as an example, I have a particularly traumatic experience, and then boom, that creates a memory. And then later on, I have an experience that echoes that, where I feel that same degree of lack of safety or vulnerability in an unpleasant way. And it's like that memory is like links. And then I have another experience where then boom, I feel that emotion and that negative belief again. And then like all these memories link together and creates this memory chain associated with kind of the belief and the emotion and all of that. There's that theme. So like when one memory gets triggered, it's just like the mind kind of connects with that theme broadly. So that could be the potential of experiencing the positive affect tolerance increasing, like, oh, okay, not only is this memory and the feeling and the belief able to come up, it's now kind of triggering the other links within that memory chain. So then your mind is able to kind of go with it. So if it's along the same theme and you're allowing yourself to have that feel positive and that general belief structure is being reinforced, then yeah, it's okay, I think, for the other memories to begin to kind of filter in. You're building and strengthening that memory chain of positivity.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. It's nice to kind of stay in the one place, but yeah, just build this like pool of goodness to sort of marinate in. It was very nice. I am interested in like exploring sort of the deity practice more. It's very interesting.
Yeah, well, if you want, if that's of interest to you, I encourage you to explore that a little bit. And you know, definitely Shinzen. Right after that video was done, there was an up next thing where he was talking about other aspects of the Vajrayana practice. So I encourage anybody to continue on with your personal studies and research as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, Nicole, keep on marinating in that pool of goodness. Okay, Carolyn, you had something you wanted to chime in on as well.
I did, yeah. Thank you for this night. I mean, thank you for all the nights, but wow. I've been working in another program doing inquiries in inventories and such, and so there's one of the things that I feel locked up by at this point in my life is what I'm calling inertia. And so when it came time to choose a word, the one that I chose was vibrancy. And when it came time to choose, to look into my past, there was a lot in my past when I was vibrant. And to do this practice in looking through my life was so liberating. There was a part of me watching me saying, I'm allowed to do this. I really can do this. This is okay. And I kept checking to see, am I getting attached to this? No, I wasn't. I was labeling and I was doing, and I wasn't attached. And it was amazing to feel those feelings of vibrancy I haven't felt in a really, really long time. And it pulls. It maybe, I don't know. It is a piece that's been missing because I'm an older person, and I'm in that part of my life where I'm going through all my stuff and trying to, you know, get rid of stuff and the goodwill and throw out and blah blah. And the stuff I came upon this week was a tower of pictures of all different parts of my life, and looking, thinking, am I really supposed to throw all this out because I'm not supposed to live in the past? Or like, I'm just I know that sounds, well, it sounds ridiculous to me anyway, but I just couldn't figure out what to do with it. It's like, it just never occurred to me to do with it what we did in that half hour together. That was amazing.
Good. Excellent. So it's a resource building. Yeah. So it's like, so like what we're mentioning with Nicole, you know, it's a particular memory chain. And so it's just like memories. If we don't review them, then we kind of forget them. And if we don't kind of really take an active training in how we are relating to our sensory experience, we have a tendency to prioritize the negative. And as we age, we tend to acquire more negative and painful experiences. And then we come to have that become our baseline experience, where we just assume pain, loss, disappointment, anxiety, etc., and that becomes where we live. So to take time to you know, pull the scale, pull that dial to the opposite, where it's just like, no, these are positive memory chains and positive expressions or experience of self, and that builds those memory chains, that builds our internal resources. So yes, you're Dominus Vobiscum, you're allowed to do it. And I think that's good, though, that your awareness of, oh, am I craving, getting attached to, etc. You know, it's good to know that, be aware of that. But you know, I think that within this practice, I think it's important. It's important, especially as we continue to move forward in time to train ourselves to reconnect with the positive. And I think vibrancy, I think that's a really cool one for you.
Good. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. The rainbow connection. Nice, Nicole. Okay, very good. So I think that we are coming down the home stretch. Let me do the Dhamma talks here. So let me get those informations to everybody here. Bear with me as I get my stuff together. So thank you, everybody, for your practice this evening. I really appreciate all of you, and especially, in particular, those who have continued on this journey all thus far. It's been quite a lot of stuff that we've been connecting with, that we've been doing. So the fact that you've been sticking with it thus far is pretty amazing. So here we are, the interplay. On one hand, I'm coming from the traditional Buddhist approach that all teachings are freely offered. Nobody has ever turned away for a lack of funds, especially in this time that is ripe with economic insecurity. So please, it's important that we come together and practice together and support each other. On the other side of that coin, we're coming through Insight LA, which is an organization which was able to make this possible. And they too are subject to the impermanence of finances that are going around. So if you're in a position to donate for the class, that would be wonderful. I know that they came up with a number for the class, whether it's drop-in or series. They had different numbers there. So if you've paid for that, thank you very much. If you're in a position where you can add some extra dana or donation, that will definitely help keep everything in play. What did I put there? Wow, okay. I just double sent everybody something else. So what I just put there was my contact information. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Link to Facebook posts and YouTube channels. So I'll be posting this one up in the next few days. And also if you want to review previous material, that is there too, previous classes. Now then, the link that I'm hoping to put up. This is the link to, all right, it's not coming up for some reason. I keep It keeps showing that instead. Anyway, links to donate. If you could go to insight.org/events, Dharma Study Group. Well, if you found this through the website, there will be a donate button there as well. So feel free to click on that to donate. And while you're on the Inside LA website, please check out other programs that we have. There's lots of stuff happening all online, so nobody's got an excuse because of traffic. Let's see if I can send this one. Okay, good. And then this next thing that I'm putting up there is actually different. It's a Zoom meeting link. I mentioned earlier that Monday through Friday, I do a sit group. It's independent of Inside LA. It's myself and a lovely little sangha of people that have been sitting together all through this whole COVID craziness. So Monday through Friday, Pacific time, 9 to 10 a.m. Each day we focus on a different theme. So please consider that an invitation for you to join us and get some support in your daily practice. That would be wonderful. I think that's about it. So we can end up with a dedication of merit. As I like to say, by the merits of these acts and other such virtues, may we attain a liberation for the benefit of all sentient beings. We bow before those who have come before us on the path and to those who will come after us on the path. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for everything, and I hope to see everybody next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, Hannah.
Bye. Thank you. I liked your cat, Nicole.
Dances a little bit. Yeah.
Right,
Not willingly.
cat.